Hello and welcome to Clay to Canopy, the show where I attempt to make just about everything from the ground up. Today I'm going to be making a basket using primarily recycled or upcycled and scrap materials and some dowels. Come on, let's go do this. If you have been following along, I have been working on a New England Sunporch environment, and I am basically making the entire environment from the ground up. If you have not been following along, then please go check out the New England Sunporch playlist, and you will see a bunch of videos that's all related to this one environment. If you are not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button also. It really does help me out, and I am trying to build up my numbers. So, today is going to be another one of my just winging it, just like most of my videos. I have a bunch of scrap wood and I have an idea in my head, and we're gonna see how that all turns out. I have some leftover wire mesh from the garden project, so I had this idea to make a basket using the wire mesh and the burlap that I had dyed in a previous video. I really like the idea of this burlap coming against the natural wood, against the hard wire mesh. There's just something about mixing this construction materials with something that is this soft, tactile thing. I'm really attracted to that duality in pieces. I went ahead and I milled up some wood. I have these leftover furring strips, and these are the cheapy furring strips, $2 or $3 a piece, that are, you know, pretty much wonky and not in that great condition. After running it through the planer, I sized it down to where I wanted on the table saw, and then ran it back through the planer because after the table saw it left marks on it. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is chopping these down to size and assembling a frame with the wire mesh. Now, in order for me to assemble the frame with the wire mesh, I don't want to just staple gun this frame on. I want a little bit more of a clean cut. So I'm going to go ahead and run my pieces over the table saw to give me a notch that's going to give me a place for the wire mesh to sit, and then I can assemble a frame that will sit on either side. Normally I don't do mitered frames because when you deal with the miter, depending on how you glue it up, for the most part you're dealing with end grain, and when you glue up end grain to end grain, it is not a stable joint. But in this case, because I am going to also be staple gunning that piece of hardware mesh to the inside of this little groove that I just made over on the table saw, that's going to give me that extra stability, and I'm not even going to bother putting any kind of screws into the joint. I might use some super glue to kind of tack it in place, but I'm not going to have to worry about that because the wire mesh is what's going to end up doing my holding. I'm putting in a 1/2 inch tick mark on each side of my pieces. I just have it resting against this frame because I'm using it as a guide, and then I went ahead and cut the waste piece block just to use as a spacer. Here I am, I've got my tick mark on each side, and I'm just going to use those 2 tick marks as a guide. I'm going to be drilling a hole to sink this dowel into these side pieces. This tick mark is going to be my stopping point when I do the drilling. I've just spent some time marking 5 little points where I'm going to be sinking in these dowels to create a little bit of a cage where I'm going to be weaving the burlap through. I'm going to take my awl and I'm just going to set a little tap hole so that my drill has somewhere to follow, and then it's going to be time for a glue up. I've taken a piece of blue tape and measured out that 1/2 inch, so when I go ahead and drill through, the tape is going to be where I do my stopping point. Alright, well, that was some kind of ridiculousness. I just got doused in glue. I have it all in my hair at this point, so I'm going to hurry up and finish getting this thing glued up because I need to go get it out of my hair before it glues it all together. I am just going to do glue around the bottom of the plywood because that's the only place that it's really making any difference. The rest of these parts are just end grain, and the glue would just be pointless. I've assembled 2 corners of each side so that make it a little bit easier. I just assembled those with some screws. Now I'm going to use the screws and the glue to hold the base on. Alright, I am walking away from this thing today. Tomorrow I will go ahead and do some sanding, give it a spray finish, and also work on a handle. But I need to step away because that was ridiculous. Alright, I am all cleaned up after yesterday. It's not as bad looking as I thought it was going to be. I think I can work with this. Last night I was having horrific nightmares thinking that I needed to remake the whole thing. It does look more like a box than it does a basket, but whatevs. Make it a box basket. It will still hold stuff and it will still look great on the table. I am going to sand it up, but before I get to doing that, I'm going to work on the handle. I just cut 2 pieces of wood that I'm going to put in bookbinding bolts, and then that way this can swing. I also need to run this dowel across the 2 pieces, and then I guess it will classify more as a basket than box. Basket, does it just has to be woven, right? So I'm going to have woven sides, and that technically will make it a basket. Sure. I do not have a drill press. It would be nice if I did have one, but I don't. I used to have one, and then I downsized. Now I have to eyeball what looks like it's possibly vertical. All right, I'm gonna take this over to the sander and do a bit of shaping on the top and the bottom just so that they look a little bit rounded. And then I am also going to hit this with palm sander. Then I will be ready to throw on a spray finish, and I can begin preparing the burlap to go into the weave. Last night's couch project involved me flipping these tubes, and I hit them with the iron just to get them a little bit easier to deal with. I am going to be hand stitching them to themselves. I'm going to go in and just put in a lock stitch on the end. That way I don't have to worry about any fraying. My pieces of the burlap are stitched on. All I have left is to attach the handle, and we are home free. So I have bookbinding pieces, and I've actually thrown on a longer bolt that is the same type of bolt. I guess it's a bookbinding bolt. I do have some washers to play with in between. I'm gonna snake a washer in between the two so that it has room to swing. Covered in burlap fibers and cat hair. Alrighty, and there it is. I am going to conclude it here. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe if you have not done so already, and stick around to see how this entire environment comes together.